Well, hey, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Brew. It's another Monday, kind of feeling it after the 4th of July, all the celebrations.
The Sunday scaries were different today.
Yeah.
Especially after this, it felt like a 3-day weekend in a way because I had a busy weekend, but yeah, definitely a little.
I heard you were doing something cool this weekend.
Yeah, got on the lake as I was talking about. Was able to do that. Tried wakeboarding, failed miserably.
What?
But
It's
I wanna-
hard. It's hard.
It's very
hard.
difficult,
Yeah.
so maybe I'll try again.
Well, I mean, just like getting up is the hard part, I
Yes.
think, right? Because the water drags you down so hard. It's just hard to get up there,
Yeah.
I guess. But what did you do? Did you see an Arkansas fireworks show?
No, I did not. I certainly definitely
What?
heard the Arkansas fireworks show, but
Yeah.
no, I worked this past weekend and I was just like, you know what? I'm a guy that loves to sleep, so maybe next year I'll get catch a
Went
fireworks show.
sleep. I wouldn't know.
Weren't you out on the lake too?
I was in Texas.
Yeah, out there
Yeah.
on the lake.
It was fun. My friend's parents have a lake house, so that was a good time.
Well, let's talk about Texas. Is that where, because there was flooding there, massive
It was
flooding.
not where we were, but you could just feel like the heaviness in Texas while we were there. Every news station had it. This was the DFW area, but they had reporters that were there, even though it's a few hours away. I think it was about 2 hours from where we were from, and the neighbor to the lake house that we were at, their daughters had some friends that were at that camp. And so the heaviness that was just in the area, I feel like they were looking for the girls. I don't know what the final outcome was because this was like early on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
But yeah, just in Texas alone, I mean, just everyone was devastated. And then my friend who we went to visit has a daughter too. So just, I feel like that makes it even harder when you think about all these lives that were lost and all the kids.
Yeah, and if you don't know, on Friday, some massive flooding there in the Texas area. 82 dead, many more presumed still missing. Crews are working around the clock right now, rescue missions, trying to see if there is anyone else out there. Tiffany was talking about the camp. There's around 10 girls from Camp Mystic under that flood threat, which remains missing. We're even sending crews from all across the country are going to Texas
banging
right
on
now
doors, getting people.
to help them any way that they can.
I feel like, any big natural disaster, I feel like impacts a lot of people, but this is one I feel like you're seeing hit a lot closer to home for a lot of people. I just saw so many celebrities over the weekend posting about this, how their hearts and prayers are with the people of Texas, just because I think, especially when kids are involved,
Right.
I think it hits people a little harder, and this is just something that happened in the middle of the night. It was just such a crazy thing. Friends from Texas were talking about that area, just seeing the pictures of the aftermath. They couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it just happened so fast.
Yeah, it really did. And I wanted to go over a little bit of a timeline of kind of how it all happened. And I know there's a lot of question of, well, there wasn't much warning. There was, but that's kind of a big kind of on the meteorologist side of things, just how do we communicate it? How do we do better communicating? So I wrote it down, so just to make sure I didn't get my notes right. This was shared via James Spann over in Birmingham, very famous meteorologist. So he put out this timeline yesterday, just kind of give everyone an idea, and I just wanted to share that here. So a flash flood watch was issued for Kerr County, where a lot of this happened,
Right.
at 12:41 a.m. early Friday morning, so just after midnight Thursday night. It mentioned the possibility of 10 plus inches of rain. Many areas saw 10 to 20 inches of rainfall in
a
that area,
lot.
which is a lot, again, especially in a short amount of time that it was. Then they issued a flash flood warning at 1:14 a.m., so just 33 minutes after that for Kerr County, mentioned life-threatening flash flooding to creeks, streams, and rivers. And then a flash flood emergency was issued at 5:34 a.m., about 4 hours later, for Kerr County and the Guadalupe River, which is the big river that's been
Right.
flooding in that area. So I know there's been some questions too of, well, were they properly staffed? That was not an issue. Usually they had 2 on staff for that specific area for the NWS in Austin and San Antonio. They had 5 on staff. They knew ahead of time that this could be a possibility. And then this is not new flooding for this area. This has happened in 1998, 1987, 1978, 1935, and 1921. So this isn't something that, it's never happened before. Obviously, it's devastating, but this has happened in the past. And as I mentioned, 10 to 20 inches of rainfall in the area. Still could see more. And the reason why it happened in so much precipitation in so little time, there was Tropical Storm Barry that formed just on the East Pacific, then made its way eastward into Texas and then kind of stalled out over that area. And that's why they had so much rain. Now, going back to the proper warning, one of the problems is, yes, it was at night, and in the camp in that area may not have the greatest cell reception. But another problem is that when you see a flash flood warning, a lot of it gets issued for minor flash flooding or something that isn't massive flood streaming. It goes for every flooding. So I think the problem is, in moving forward, the question is, how do we message it so where we can put a little bit more emphasis on, hey, this is a big deal. This isn't just your casual, maybe a little bit of flooding over the overbank. This is going to be possibly deadly flooding. And they did that with the flash flood emergency, but how do we get the warnings out? One of those ways is a NOAA weather radio. We always talk about it. It doesn't use cellular service. The National Weather Service uses different communications. It is extremely loud, and it will wake you up. It will not fail to wake you up. And so I think that maybe would have helped. I mean, again, it happened so fast.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate. But I just want to clear that, yes, they were properly staffed. There were warnings ahead of time for it as well. I mean, I'm sure meteorologists in that area knew that rain was coming. Obviously, very unfortunate it happened, but I just want to make sure, yes, it was properly staffed. It has happened before. And again, maybe moving forward, there needs to be a better way of communicating what is going
Yeah,
to
and
happen.
not everybody, you know, I guess would set up their, I guess, devices to receive weather alerts, you know,
Yeah.
like whenever there's like a tornado warning or something. That seems to be a little bit more prominent, sort of you get those a bit more. Is
Yeah.
it the same with the flash flooding
So it
warnings?
can be. So some of those wireless emergency alerts that'll pop up on your phone for severe weather, it's only significant. So 80-mile-per-hour winds, baseball size or higher hail, or 2-inch size hail, excuse me, and tornado warnings. Flash flood would only probably be a flash flood emergency that would show up. Because again, a lot of these, I mean, we have it all the time here for minor flooding that we get a little bit of rain, and you probably see those and you go, oh, you know, whatever. And I think that's the problem is, especially with tornado warnings maybe as well, if there's a false alarm high rate, they see that and they go, oh, okay, well, it's just another warning, I'm gonna ignore it. But this was one of those where you couldn't ignore it and you have to read the fine print. And so that's where National Weather Service, you know, local media meteorologists on TV, how do we communicate that better, and how do we set it up in the future to where, all right, if this does happen, how do you receive those warnings? How do you configure your phone, your radio, so be it that you can receive those warnings and be on high alert if this were to happen?
Yeah.
You just have to think at a camp too, especially with a lot of kids. There
Yeah.
might not have been a lot of phones.
Yeah.
Each counselor has one. It's probably on silent, not to wake the kids up. And then you just think about too, I mean, most cabins, you've got about 2 counselors per 10 kids.
Right. And as I mentioned, it's in a kind of, you know, a little bit of a isolated area, so they might not even had cell service. So even if it did come in, it might not have come in at all. So again, it's a really unfortunate situation. It's just one of those, as meteorologists on this side, like, how do we make that message out there so we can get people, as many people as we can, safe?
Yeah, it makes you wonder, should they put something in place, maybe kind of like a tornado siren, right? That would
Yeah,
kind of
and
like help.
And
You
then
just don't know.
and that's where you'd have to, because emergency management will sound those. So do you add, like you said, flash flood emergencies to that list? It's a tough situation. Again, really unfortunate. And heart goes out to everyone in Central Texas for that.
Wow.
But definitely, just how do we, moving forward, make the messaging a little bit better?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion over that. President Trump visiting, I think, on Friday. The areas of Texas. We're definitely going to keep our neighbors to the south in our thoughts for sure. Well, let's switch gears here just for a minute. Have you seen this video? A massive sinkhole opened up in Mexico. Look at this. It swallowed 2 vehicles, a cargo truck and another truck, prompting an emergency response there. Could you imagine just, I mean, you're just driving and you just fall in.
Yeah, my mom and I talk about this all the time. It's like one of our biggest fears of just maybe what if your house is on one of these type of thing, or like it's terrifying.
Yeah, how would you know? You know,
Yeah, exactly.
You don't, I guess. I mean, sort of the earth shifts and moves a little bit.
Yeah.
This one 120 feet long, 30 feet wide. Thankfully, though, no injuries or deaths reported out of this, which is great news. It looks like the 2 biggest vehicles on the road are actually the ones that went in.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and thank goodness it didn't go even deeper, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean that's
Yeah.
a big fall right there.
Yeah, and I've seen those videos. I think there's one in Florida a couple years ago. Like you said, the house literally just caved in. And I don't think anyone was in the house, thank goodness. But it's tough, especially when you get in those either low-lying areas where there's a lot of rain, like Florida, down in the south. That was in New Mexico. Sometimes when it's really moist and the ground's really moist, the earth says, I give up. There's too much weight on here.
Yeah, definitely.
It's wild.
All right, so can we just take a minute to appreciate all of the fireworks that happen? Have you seen some of these fireworks shows coming in from like around
I mean,
the world?
They're incredible.
Oh, this one right here was the one in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol Fort celebration there.
Wow, I would love to be in Washington, D.C. over the 4th of July. We were there over Memorial Day, which was really special. But I feel like the 4th of July next year for the 250th anniversary, that is going to be incredible.
Yeah, even the one coming from the Washington, D.C. Mall. I think we have video of that one here in just a second. Absolutely amazing. Talking about fireworks, though, are you guys still hearing fireworks going off around the area?
Last
when I was
night,
trying to go to bed.
I heard a couple last night.
Okay, so does that make us a little bit prudish, or is it justified?
I mean, once my head hit the pillow, I was fine.
I think
Yeah.
for me, for fireworks, you can do it the day before, like the 3rd to the 5th, go crazy, right? Once you get after that, all right, come on, guys. Like, it's not the 4th
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, I'm thinking, the 4th of July, okay, we expect that, right? We want to celebrate all night long. But after that, people have pets, they have kids.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, like after 10 o'clock at night, it just becomes more of a disturbance than a celebration at that point.
Well, I kind of feel like, too, though, like my neighborhood, there's quite a bit of land, I feel like, just like a mile away. And the fireworks felt like they were from further away. Like, I think it was people like on their acreage, on their own land, thinking probably they weren't disturbing anyone. But when they're going one after another, you pick up on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do, for sure.
I do want to shortly add. So one of the things that's really cool is if you guys want to look next year, even they might still have the date of this year. If you look at the air quality maps, you can see which cities had the biggest fireworks shows.
Oh.
And so I looked at that the other day. Here in Northwest Arkansas, in the River Valley, I mean, not too crazy, but also not as many people here. DC, as you might expect, was the craziest.
I
Their
bet.
air quality was off the charts. Like, literally was over 500, like the worst it could possibly be. But also some surprises. Indianapolis, I guess they go nuts over there. Cincinnati, most of Ohio, actually, a lot of the bigger cities in Ohio loved their fireworks. Idaho Falls, they went nuts. They had like a air quality of like 350. And then obviously you spent like Los Angeles as well. I think there was maybe one more. Oh, like Clarksville, Tennessee, like northern Tennessee. They went nuts on their fireworks.
Wow, that's interesting.
I was in air quality myself. That was pretty bad because we were trying to watch the fireworks from the balcony of their house. And then we were like, oh, I don't think we can see it over the trees. So we went and moved. We thought we were going to be up close. We were right under the fireworks.
Well, that's kinda cool, right?
The ash was raining down on us.
Oh, that's not so
like,
great.
hitting us. Like the firework things, like that was left over.
Yep.
Were like hitting us. We were all under the hood of the car, or the trunk thing, hiding. And we had to go get the car washed the next day because there were ashes all
Oh, that's
over
fantastic.
it. Like we were like all coughing, but it was fun. We were right there. There was smoke
Like
everywhere.
raining fireworks. All right, let's talk about the LA Sphere, which will begin to host a Wizard of Oz themed event starting at the end of August. It's celebrating the upcoming show there. Planes recreated the iconic Surrender Dorothy message. It was delivered by the witch in the original film, where crews flew out in both California and New York there on the 4th of July. Surrender Dorothy. You guys remember this from the original?
I do. I'm trying to think. So is it like the Broadway show that's coming up? Is that why they're doing it?
Yeah, that is, and they did like the witch's legs sticking out of it as well. I think a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, is it for Broadway or is it for the new Wicked coming out?
Yeah,
later this
for the
year?
new Wicked, but
Okay.
it's just they used the old, Surrender
for
Dorothy
sure.
just to kind of. But all right, well, tens of thousands of revelers packed into Pamplona, Spain, to celebrate the traditional firework blast there, marking the start of the San Fermin Bull Running Fest. That's a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Those are some brave people. I would never want to be a part of that festival with the bull. Well, I guess beforehand, sure.
Look at them.
But when the bulls come, no thanks.
You don't think so? Well, and that's a pretty controversial thing, right? The bull run, that whole thing.
I feel like there it's not. I feel like there it's such a tradition.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
it's just a part of their history.
It's kind of like the rodeo down here, right? It's just kind of been tradition forever, and then we could go into, the ethics of it or not.
I have a friend who went to Spain earlier in the year, and they posted something that was like, when you find out what actually happens at the end of a bullfight, and it was her like hands like to her face, like crying, like she couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know all that went down
Yeah.
when it came to the bullfighting.
All right, well, researchers have identified 6 traits that make someone cool. They say
Jacob
they
Luthi.
possess six traits. You want to know what they are? Being extroverted, powerful, adventurous, open, and independent.
I think those are
fair.
I think those are fair. I mean, see, like the footage there, I just feel like that guy's hiding something, Like, I just feel like deep underneath, maybe he's not necessarily
I'm
a
just
good guy.
like, what makes these people cool? I think everyone has different definitions of cool. Y'all both said athletes. I think me and Joe said people that are nice are cool. I just think there's different definitions. When I was in elementary school, the people that were cool were really good at kickball, and I was not one of them. So
Yeah, I think definitely like the more, what's not like arbitrary, but more of like the more schoolish stuff is like when you're younger, like, oh, if you're good at sports, or like, oh, you're really
Yeah.
tall. And I was gifted, with genetics that, yeah, I bursted to 5'6" when I was in 3rd grade. Although, unfortunately, that also was on not so cool because I also had like facial hair when I was like 5th grade. And they thought, oh my God.
That wasn't cool to have facial hair in 5th grade?
No, they thought I was an absolute creature. They were like, oh, you've got a unibrow? Like, hey, man, I'm aware.
I was also very tall.
Yeah,
I was full grown pretty fast.
it can be fun in sport. Like, sports is great. But then, like, during school, people can be mean about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what you said this morning, though. What makes someone cool? And he said being nice to
He
people.
said being nice.
I love
yeah.
that answer. That's
it
a
was
great answer.
I mean, I know that's very cliche, but still, if you're nice to
I
others,
feel like that's true whenever you become an adult.
Yes.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
It's the
It's
people
not
that are
when you're
nice.
younger, which
which
that's not
is
okay.
dumb.
Usually,
but,
Yeah.
like in movies and things like that, the cool people are the mean ones.
yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's also
Got it all
interesting to see like the flip, like with the recent Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland. Usually like in the Tobey Maguire ones, it's like the big bullies, like that are like the big guys that are the bullies. Now it's turning to like if you're not smart, like oh you're not cool anymore.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunately shifting back. It's just the new people are cool because like Tom Holland, I think they were like bragging about which one was going to win an award, and I was like, this has really changed over 25 years.
Yeah,
For sure.
It's weird. All right, let's talk about that weather. It's heating up here in Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. We'll see a couple of storm chances, I think, later this afternoon. We are seeing some isolated showers right now in northwest Arkansas, but the main threat is going to be later this afternoon, probably about 4 or 5 o'clock till about midnight. The best chance all week is going to be Tuesday afternoon and evening. From roughly about 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. is the highest chance of any stronger thunderstorms. We could see them anytime after the noon hour. Could see some gusty winds, maybe some heavy rain as well. Then after that becomes pretty isolated and really just warming back up. Temperatures in the low to mid 90s, and especially in the River Valley, that's where you can see those heat indices around 100 to 105. And yes, it's warmer, but again, as of now, still haven't hit 100 degrees yet, and usually this is kind of where we hit it, although we haven't hit officially, quote-unquote, the hottest time of the year, and that's roughly the 3rd week of July to about the 2nd week of August, the climatological warmest time of the year, where highs on average are about 90 to 95, and low temperatures are about 68 to 73. So we haven't hit it quite yet, but right now, especially this summer so far, hasn't been too bad.
Hasn't been too bad. It's heating up, though. Hey, thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Brew. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
7 a.m. See you then.